What you doing over there, Pruitt?
I just got my samurai sword here silvered.
Oh, nice.
I think I'm gonna go hunt some lycanthropes. There's been people missing lately. A few legs have been...
Tell me all about it.
How's it going there, gamers? I'm Jonathan Pruitt. This is Jim Davis, and today we're in the Temple of Doom talking about lycanthropes on WebDM. All right, Jim. So we're talking about lycanthropes.
Lycanthropes, sure.
But where do we begin?
For me, lycanthropes are one of those monsters that are pretty classic to Dungeons & Dragons and sort of the whole monster mythology that surrounds it, but I find that I never use in any of my campaigns.
Not really.
It's just one of those things. I don't know if it's because I'm not just that big of a fan of it, maybe because I didn't play enough Werewolf from the White Wolf games that I didn't get that much into it. But they're just
Are you a furry?
Not a furry, not really into anthro stuff, you know, I don't know. Werewolves just haven't been one of those monsters that I think about or incorporate a lot into my games. That said, they have a lot of really cool things going for them. But I think that in 5th edition, there needs to be more, I don't know. I find that werewolves and other kinds of were-creatures, how shall I put this, lack teeth. In 5th edition, there's just something missing from them.
Right.
And so if I was going to use them, I would definitely change up a lot about them, change up how the curse works, sort of what they have, and definitely bring back in some of the weirder were creatures from earlier editions of the game.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of drawback unless you're playing like a paladin, like a lawful good paladin. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, the average, you know, adventuring murder hobo might actually like to be a werebear or a
wereboar or were-rat or whatever flavor of animal that they want to pretend to be whenever they wig out and decide to go let their curse take over.
Right.
Yeah, I find that when I look at the monster manual, I see, okay, there's a curse. Where does the curse come from? Mm-hmm. Are they cursed by the gods? Is it a blessing of some gods?
Right.
If we're talking about something like the Forgotten Realms, then you have deities like Malar, which is actually a patron of evil lycanthropes.
Yeah.
And so is it a curse if you're blessed by Malar to become a wereboar or a werewolf or something like that?
Probably not.
So for me, the first question I'm trying to answer is, where does the curse come from? The second off is, how is it possible to be cursed? Can a wizard do this? Can a sorcerer curse someone? Is it possible for a warlock to use bestow curse at a higher level slot to curse someone with lycanthropy?
Yeah, because in the book, there's no way to actually do it.
There's no way to actually do it. The only way to actually contract one of these sort of diseases is to get bitten by a creature that has already suffered from the curse. So sort of like, who's the first werewolf? Who's the first werebear? We'll get to werebears in a minute, because I really don't see why anyone wouldn't seek out a werebear and just be like, please, Mr. Werebear, will you just bite me? Because there's no drawbacks to this, and I get to be a giant 9-foot-tall bear man that can do whatever they want.
Right.
So where does the curse come from? How do you become cursed? And then the second is just, let's give this curse some teeth.
Right.
Let's make it a real drawback. If your paladin gets bitten by a werewolf, like say they're scouring through the forests of Barovia, they've run into their werewolf clan while trying to track down Strahd, oh no, this is going to be really bad. It needs to be something more than just an alignment change, which in 5th edition is already pretty weak sauce. I'm giving them flaws. They're going to get a flaw regardless of what form they're in, whether it's their sort of humanoid form, their hybrid, or their animal form. Something like the smell of blood drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Or I can't, the sight of violence, enrages my animal side.
Yeah, you
something
start
like
making
that.
con checks or something.
Yeah, con checks or charisma checks or something that to maintain their composure and control. It needs to be a real disadvantage to suffer from lycanthropy.
Because if you're out in the middle of the woods because it's a full moon and you need to get away from everybody, that's one thing.
Right.
But if you're in a bar fight,
yeah, then you don't want, you don't want a bit of broken glass or a bloody nose to send you over the edge, and now everybody's dead, and you've got a problem. You got to atone for it, and that's just not a situation that you want to get yourself stuck in.
Yeah.
However, it might be a situation that your DM wants you to get stuck in.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a flaw. The second flaw I'm going to give them is when they're in their cursed form.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're the 9-foot-tall man-wolf hybrid with 6-inch claws loping through the forest, the smell of blood in their nostrils. There's going to be something like, I can't stop killing no matter how hard I try.
Right.
Or I won't return to my humanoid form until I've spilled the blood of innocence.
Yeah.
Like something like that, so that it really reinforces the fact that the creatures that werewolves are supposed to represent and other were creatures are cursed. You should have pity for them. You shouldn't, I mean, they're not just monsters that you go kill. Maybe that's the local miller's kid who picked up an old elven, picked through some old elven burial ground, and now they're cursed with lycanthropy.
Yeah.
And the party has to come in and figure out what's going on. Who is it? What's happening? Is it really a werewolf? Is it something else? And then try to unravel that mystery, and then defeat them, but not kill them.
With regards to different kinds of werewolves, or excuse me, lycanthropes.
Yeah.
You mentioned werebears earlier.
So there's werebears, yes.
Okay.
I guess backing up a second. With lycanthropes, if you want, you can either resist the curse, in which case there's some sort of cycle, which might be like the fifth thing that I try to figure out. Is it tied to the moon? Is it tied to something else? Whatever. But there's sort of a cycle in which you uncontrollably become one of these monsters. Or you can give in, suffer an alignment change, and can alter your form at will, however you like. So a werebear turns you into a neutral good man-bear thing that can wield an axe. You're a giant bear. Why wouldn't every fighter, barbarian, ranger that skews towards the good alignments want this for themselves?
Yeah, you're a barbarian that's a totem of the bear, but how dedicated to it are you?
How dedicated are you? Until you seek out the other werebears and go and try to convince them, hey, I just need you to give me a little bite. It doesn't have to be a big deal, that nobody has to get mauled. I just need a little blood drawn, and then it's going to be perfectly fine. Maybe that's an adventure in and of itself.
Not looking for marriage,
You're not looking for that. So for me, werebear is one of those monsters that's like, I don't know where to fit it into a campaign. So how I've done it in the past, and particularly for our viewers who are sort of following along with our Out of the Abyss campaign and the fun we've had with playing evil characters, is that Brondel, the Dwergar Oathbreaker Paladin, decided to crash the wedding of the Brawn Anvils and the Battle Hammers, and decided that he was going to woo the bride, Brunhilde Brawn Anvil, who was a were-barbarian or werebarian.
Yeah.
And
so, a were-barbarian.
A were-barbarian.
Yeah.
And so I kind of worked it in. Maybe this clan of dwarves has werebearism that runs through them.
Yeah. In the royal line.
In sort of the royal line. But other ways to use creatures in the campaign, it seems like every city in every Dungeons and Dragons world has a were-rat guild.
Yeah.
There's some
Thieves Guild.
sort of shifty whisker twirling were-rats that they're in the numbers racket. They're armed smuggling magic weapons into the city against the wishes of the Mages Guild. They're running a slave ring out of the Plane of Fire, sending people to the city of Brass, that kind of thing. So maybe it's an overly used cliche, but it could be one of those things that you keep their animal nature secret. The party's facing against an organization that seems to know everything. They seem to be able to anticipate the party's moves. They don't realize that they're dealing with a clan of were-ravens that are able to just sort of keep their spies everywhere, all their little birds and magpies and ravens and crows and things, spying on the party all the time.
Yeah, you can make a character based on fairies and actually have little birds everywhere.
Actually have little birds that sort of like keep tabs on everyone. So I kind of think if I was going to use were-creatures in a campaign, it would be a reveal, say around party level 4 or 5, just as you're about to hit the top of that first tier. It's like, oh my god, they're were-creatures, and nobody has any silver weapons, nobody has the means to do it. And really, honestly, before bestow curse, remove curse rather, becomes a thing that the party can just throw around and all of a sudden completely neutralize their enemies.
So shifting the focus, as it were, let's talk about different kinds of shifters.
All right. So to me, shifters are one of those compromises that the game made where creatures, particularly in 3rd edition, where shifters show up, where creatures are very powerful. They increase the effective level of your character by a certain amount, and so some DMs didn't want to let them in their campaign. Enter the shifter, someone who at one point had lycanthropic blood, or maybe they were next to someone who got the curse. Yeah, they were just adjacent.
They were giving them a high five at the time.
Right. So they have a touch of the animal to them. I think of them more as like Wolverine or Sabretooth from the X-Men.
Oh yeah, totally.
Maybe their hair grows a little bit longer. They're a little bit more bestial. I'm not particularly extra set of canines. I'm not particularly pleased with the Eberron playtest rules that they released in Unearthed Arcana way back that I would love for them to update.
Yeah.
Some people, they want their shifting abilities all the time. They don't want to become an animal sometimes. They don't want to break out their animalistic characteristics sometimes, even if it's once a short rest. So I might say, you know what? There's plenty of other races that get natural attacks that are better than any other weapon, or at the very least on par with weapons.
Right.
Special abilities that are really desirable. Maybe just give them those abilities and say, now we're done. And then if you want them to go above and beyond, have those shifting abilities, boost whatever they have naturally. Something like that. But I mean, shifters are fun. They're a type of they're a type of player race that I'd like to see more of in the game. Of course, I'm always a huge Eberron fan.
Yeah.
So I always want to see more of elements that they introduce brought back into mainstream D&D.
Also, there's other kinds of shifting creatures that are similar. But not quite, like jack-o'-wares.
Jack-o'-wares, wolf-wares, animals that turn into people. I mean, this is one of the problems that I see with the were creatures, is that in a world where you've got druids who can turn into all kinds of animals, wizards and sorcerers who are over here polymorphing into all sorts of animals, like, what is it that makes the were creature unique?
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that can alter their form, shape-shift, turn into animals, or animals that turn into people.
Yeah.
And so I think that the curse is what I would focus on. This needs to be an inconvenience.
Yeah.
These are maybe reluctant villains, or they are unrepentant, people who have given in to their worst animal instincts,
right.
and do not do anything to hold them back. And now it's time for the heroic adventurers to enter and put them down.
Yeah, and a couple of good examples in Kelemvor. Kelemvor, his curse.
His curse. I mean, for those of you familiar with sort of the Time of Troubles and sort of the backstory of the Forgotten Realms, Kelemvor had a weird curse where he wants
his family line.
Sort of his family line. It skips every other generation, or the nature of the curse does. I mean, you think you know more about it than I do, actually.
Well, actually, yeah. One of his ancestors was cursed because he was very greedy. So if he ever took money for doing anything, a panther would rake its way out of his flesh, and he'd go on a killing spree until it was sated.
Right.
And then he would tear his way out of the panther's flesh, and the curse was done. So he was a greedy person that could never take money for any job given. Right. So every generation, it flipped. The next generation was a good guy who always had to take money for everything. And so that's who Kelemvor ended up being, is a good guy who'd always have to be like, I'm going to need you to pay me for helping you with that thing.
Yeah.
I don't have any money. You're going to need to pay me like right now.
So there we go. Our resident Lord of the Dead was once a were-panther with a curse on him. I think that goes to show you that curses in D&D, curses in D&D need to have some kind of interesting component to them.
Yeah.
It's not just a penalty to their stats. It's not just disadvantage on certain rolls. It can be things like, now you're a werewolf. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to be. That's fine. Deal with it.
Another good example, the Jim Butcher Dresden File books.
Yes, always.
Full Moon.
It's hard not to come back to Dresden for this, because he takes sort of all the different ways that a person can become a wolf and extrapolates from there and says, yes, there's Hexen wolves, there's Loup-Garou, there are werewolves, there are
wolf-wares.
Wolf-wares.
There are lycanthropes.
Yeah,
that are basically like shifters, and they would be shifters in D&D, just kind of animalistic, a little rowdy.
Those people that only know one spell, and that is turn myself into a wolf. In the same way that I've really tried to incorporate the way that they do Fae in the Dresden Files. If I was really going to play up werewolves, that I might go to the Dresden Files and say, I'm going to use this as an inspiration to try to give it a bit more depth and vary it up a bit from what it is in the baseline monster manual.
Do you think that the shifting from D&D to White Wolf, since they had the game Werewolf,
which
I only played a couple times, had a blast with. I don't know. Did you ever play back in the days?
I never really played in any of the werewolf games that my friends ran.
Yeah.
I was really more of a mage and vampire kind of player. More Vampire Dark Ages. How I understand the game was that there's sort of a underlying tone of sort of pro-environment, they're almost sort of like supernatural animalistic eco-terrorists, if I remember correctly. There's sort of
like that.
The villains of the setting sort of are more
they're kind of crazy, the Spiral Wolves.
Yeah, kind of crazy. I mean, running through all of the old White Wolf games, I'm not that familiar with New World of Darkness, but sort of the old World of Darkness had this sort of bent of anti-technology, anti-globalism, that kind of thing. And so the werewolves fit into that. They're in touch with the spirit world. They're in touch with their more natural roots, and have to I guess, fight the powers that are arrayed against them.
Yeah, you got to learn how to step sideways.
Yeah.
Step into the spirit world, man.
The spirit world.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm not that familiar with sort of the concept of werewolves, and maybe some of our viewers would help us out by sort of mentioning where's the first time that and actually, now that I think about it, I already know what it is. Where's the first time that a man-wolf hybrid shows up? I'm guessing it's probably the Universal Studios movie, the Wolfman kind of thing. But like the super-powered, hulked out, covered in fur, big nasty claws werewolf.
Yeah.
Because to me, what I think is cool with werewolves is a person that can become a wolf, and now that wolf has an animal or human intelligence.
Yeah.
And human viciousness.
Yeah. And they're not a 9 foot tall like Arnold Schwarzenegger with teeth and claws.
Nothing like that. Yeah. So I don't know if White Wolf should be responsible or bear the blame, however you feel about it, for giving us the hybrid.
I'll blame them.
But it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah. Almost definitely.